Welcome to episode 19 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. It's November 19, 1991. Old Trafford under the floodlights, a slightly strange European night. Manchester United with the Cup Winners' Cup trophy, hosting Crvena Zvezda, or Red Star, champions of Europe. Usually, the European Super Cup is a two-legged affair, one game in each stadium. This time, there will only ever be one leg, here in Manchester. No return in Belgrade. No Maracana roar. And in the background, two very different futures are forming. In England, people are already talking about a breakaway Premier League and TV money. In Yugoslavia, Red Star's greatest team is about to be scattered by transfers, sanctions, and war. Tonight's match may look small on the page. In context, it's a hinge. To get here, you have to go back to Bari in Italy, to May 91, and to one of the last great underdog European champions. Crvena Zvezda's 91 European Cup is a 5-year plan realized. They knock out Grasshoppers, then Rangers, then absolutely overwhelmed Dynamo Dresden. 3-0 in Belgrade and 2-1 up in East Germany when crowd trouble sees the second leg abandoned and awarded as a 3-0 away win. Then comes Bayern München in the semi-final. First leg in Munich, Crvena Zvezda wins 2-1 with goals from Dejan Savicevic and Darko Pancev. Second leg in Belgrade, 2-2 on a chaotic night. Bayern leading late before a deflected Klaus Augenthaler own goal in stoppage time sends the Maracana into orbit. In the final in Bari, Red Stars strangle Marseille in a grim 0-0 and then hold their nerve in the penalty shootout to win the European Cup, the last time as of now that a club from Eastern Europe lifts the big trophy. Look at the names: Prosinecki, Savicevic, Mihailovic, Jukovic, Belodidici, Pancev, Stojanovic. A technical, tough, grown in-house side, built before big-money Champions League economics fully kick in. Within a couple of years, almost all of them will be sold west, their peak together preserved mainly on grainy YouTube clips and long-form essays. And above all of this sits the politics. In June 91, Slovenia and Croatia declare independence. Fighting breaks out, and by late 91, Yugoslavia is unraveling, and images of tanks and burning towns are on European news most nights. The national team will soon be banned from Euro 92, and we'll get to that story in a future episode of OTD, and Yugoslav clubs will be barred from UEFA competitions for a time. Red Star's European Cup win is both a footballing summit and the edge of a cliff. On the other side of the Super Cup, Manchester United's story is very different. It's the start of something. United qualify for the 91 Cup Winners' Cup by winning the 1990 FA Cup. It just happens to be the first season English clubs are allowed back into Europe after the Heysel ban. Their route is not glamorous, but it's important. Pexi from Hungary, 3-0 on aggregate. Wrexham from Wales, 5-0 on aggregate. Montpellier from France, 3-1 on aggregate. And Legia Warsaw from Poland, 4-2 over 2 legs in the semi-final. Then the final in Rotterdam. Barcelona under Johan Cruyff, league champions of Spain, with Ronald Koeman and Hristo Stoichkov. United win 2-1 thanks to 2 Mark Hughes goals, surviving a late Koeman free kick. It's United's first European trophy since 1968 and Alex Ferguson's first continental title with the club. Just days before this Super Cup, though, United has been reminded how short these cycles can be. As holders of the Cup Winners' Cup, they went out to Atletico Madrid in the second round, 3-0 down in the first leg in Spain, then only a 1-1 draw at Old Trafford on November 6. The trophy they were bringing into the Super Cup had already slipped from their grasp, which gave this night at Old Trafford an extra edge of one last shot at European silverware before the new era took over. It's also happening in the last season before England's top flight explodes into the TV era. By the summer of 91, 22 clubs have signed a founding members agreement to form a new Premier League, separate from the Football League. That autumn, talks ramp up over who will buy the TV rights, ITV or Sky B. So by November 91, the Cup Winners' Cup victory feels like a bridge from 1968 European champions to a Ferguson side just on the verge of dominating an entirely new televised landscape. Into that comes the 1991 European Super Cup and its strange format. Historically, the Super Cup is 2 legs, European Cup winners versus the holders of the Cup Winners' Cup, home and away, Red Star versus United. Should on paper mean 1 game at Old Trafford and 1 under the big floodlights at a Maracana. But the civil war in Yugoslavia makes that impossible. UEFA decides that a match in Belgrade is not politically or logistically viable, and confirms that the tie will be settled over one single leg at Old Trafford. The sense you get from contemporary reports is that the Super Cup's prestige is still fairly low, and their priority is simply to get something played for the TV rights. Attendance will only be just over 22,000, one of United's lowest home crowds of the season. Later, one English match report will say the Super Cup was played primarily for television audience, which tells you a lot about where this fixture sat at the time. Crvena Zvezda arrive in Manchester, not quite the same team that conquered Europe in May. Financial and political pressure is already pushing stars to Italy and Spain. United, meanwhile, are near full strength. Peter Schmeichel in goal, Bruce and Pallister at centre-back, Ince and Neil Webb in midfield, and Hughes and Brian Clare up front. The football itself is better than the atmosphere. Early on, United get a chance to make the night comfortable. They win a penalty in the second minute. Captain Steve Bruce steps up, but it's saved. Old Trafford groans, and instead of an exhibition, we get a real contest. For much of the first half, Red Star are the more polished side. They keep the ball neatly, pick their passes, and force proper interventions from Schmeichel. At one point, United have to clear off the line to stay level. You can feel why this Red Star squad had walked through Rangers, Dresden, and Bayern the previous spring. United are more direct, more physical, and occasionally a bit ragged. If the Cup Winners' Cup run was about them proving they could play in European football again, this is a reminder that they're still learning it. The turning point comes around the 67th minute. United build down the right. Neil Webb gets the side of goal and smacks a shot against the post. The ball cannons back into the box, and McClair reacts first, steering the rebound home, 1-0. It's not a classic European night goal, no 30-yard Beckham free kick, no volley that lives forever in Monchiches. Just a midfield shot, a clanging post, and a poacher's finish in front of the Stretford end. But it's enough. After that, Red Star push, create half chances, but the snap has gone. United do what they'll become famous for in the 1990s, manage the game, use the centre-back's heading power, slow things down when needed, and see it out. Final whistle, Manchester United 1, Crvena Zvezda of Belgrade 0. UEFA's decision about the format is already locked in. There's no second leg. The trophy is presented on the pitch that night, and United become Super Cup winners for the first time in their history. Another small line in Ferguson's building CV, another reminder that English clubs are back in the European conversation. So what does this one-legged Super Cup actually mean? For Manchester United, this wasn't just another European tie. It was kind of closure. This was their first competitive match against Red Star since the 1958 European Cup quarterfinal, whose second leg in Belgrade was followed the very next day by the Munich air disaster on the team's flight home. Matt Busby, who had rebuilt United out of that wreckage, was in the stands at Old Trafford for the Super Cup, watching his club face Red Star again in a very different world. On the other bench, Red Star coach Vladika Popovic had worn the number 6 shirt for them in that 3-3 draw in 1958, and now led his old club out as manager. That night becomes more than a 1-0 win and a trophy. It's a quiet meeting of generations, a shared remembrance between a rebuilt English giant and a Yugoslav champion about to be torn apart by history. For United, it's also a launchpad, because in just over 6 months, the Premier League will kick off, and by the end of the 1990s, Ferguson's United will have 3 league titles, a domestic double, and a Champions League to stack next to this small cup. For Red Star, it feels like an epilogue. 6 months earlier, they are champions of Europe, about to go and win the Intercontinental Cup in Tokyo, and to be crowned world champions. Within months of the Super Cup, they are trying to play football through sanctions, travel restrictions, and an economy in collapse. The Yugoslav national team will watch Euro 92 from home, banned despite having qualified. Their players scattered to Milan, Madrid, Rome, and beyond. In essence, November 19, 1991 is the moment where 2 arcs cross, the last great Eastern European champion already being pulled apart against a club about to become the flagship of a new, money-soaked television era. That's all for episode 19 of OTD, the night Manchester United lifted a European trophy in front of a half-full Old Trafford. Red Star walked out as defending champions of Europe for almost the last time, and a minor Super Cup quietly marked the passing from one football era to another. If you got memories, stats, or corrections from United Red Star 91 or from Red Star's immortal 91 run, then email us at otd@17lawsguide.com. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so more football history nerds can find us. Tomorrow, November 20, we'll talk about Ebenezer Cockmorley, one of soccer's, and the 17 laws. founding fathers. You don't want to miss that. See you then.